I call to order this work session of the Hillsboro School District Board of Directors at 5:18 p.m. Our first item on the agenda is the Native American Parent Advisory Committee report with Brand.
Good evening, everyone. So glad to have all of you here in Cheyenne online. Thank you for allowing us to come tonight. Tonight we have our Native American Alaska Native Parent Advisory Committee, who's going to be presenting on a few things that they're very proud of this year, and as well as some things that we're doing to tie this to our strategic plan. Before they get started, and thank you for accommodating all of us and the kiddos for dinner tonight. I'm going to go ahead and walk through a couple of slides about family engagement and parent advisory committees. I'll go through them fast. You've seen them before, but you're also able to ask any questions or email me if you have any further questions. So just a couple reminders. We do, for the purpose of our board presentation is to elevate the voices of our parent advisory committees. This one in particular is the Native American Alaska Native. Also to explain and show the impact that they have on our community. It's also to share system level learning as well as demonstrate alignment to the district strategic plan and inform the board governance about what it is exactly that they're doing if they have any concerns that they want to bring forward. As a reminder, we have two different types of groups. We have school-based versus district-based group. The people who are presenting today are part of our district-based group. They provide guidance and alignment to our policies and support when needed. They help us troubleshoot or mediate issues if they escalate, provide communication pathways or suggestions, and promote equity and shared learning across our schools. Whereas our school-based are more of our PTO, PTA, boosters, multicultural family groups that work directly with our building principals. The flow chart for this is we have our school-based PAC as well as our school-based PTO and PTA, and they're different in the sense that there's different people who oversee it. However, they both work in conjunction with our family outreach liaisons, our ed liaisons, our community members and administrators. And for each of those, there's ways for you if we have situations that arise that they can go to executive directors to school for support, or they can come to me or Olga Acuna, who helps out with family engagement too. When we talk about our family-based group, typically those are led by our principals or our assistant principals in our building, and they have group leaders, and there are district staff that can support, but their main responsibility is in their building and with their administrator. For each of our parent advisory committees, which we have three of them, Native American, Latino, Latina, and our Black identifying families, we also have three family engagement groups which focus on our special education, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, and our LGBTQ family engagement groups. Each of those have a technical support, and administrative support, and communications web support with partnership with Beth and her department. Throughout the year, we look to bring back information for community collaboration and accountability, and this is the Brooke's favorite game board pieces. We continually are working towards continuing that, furthering that feedback loop with our families. So I'm going to introduce you a couple people. Susan Acosta is our coordinator for Title VI this year, and she's at the very end. I'm going to pass you the clicker when I'm done. And Jennifer Williams is our Equity, Access, and Engagement TOSA, who works with all of our groups. Typically, Susan is your first one that you would go to for Native American, Alaskan Native coordination, where Jennifer supports, and we all support. She will introduce you to our three new board members. If you notice, we have board members here who, for those of you who were here last year, it's a brand new group. And so they have younger students in our school system, and they're in it for the long haul, and some of them are even here with us today. So I'm excited to have fresh voices at the table. Susan, all yours.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Dr. Susan Acosta, and I am the facilitator of our Native American. And I am so grateful to be here with all of you this evening. And I think what's important to grapple from this for all of us, me included, is what we can learn from learning and hearing our voices, from listening to their stories, and be able to appreciate the wealth of culture that they bring to the table this evening, and be able to grow in what our Native families and some of the challenges that they face each and every day in our school system and throughout our communities. So here's our agenda for this evening. We're going to be looking at the board introductions, reviewing what Title VI is, getting ideas of what NAPAC for this present school year and how it was generated, thinking about the strategic planning that went into our year-long focus based on our strategic plan, looking at what our local community events have done and where we've gone, thinking and looking at the tabling that we've done at the secondary level, our PAC attendance and the activities that went into those monthly events, and looking at our curriculum through tribal history, shared history, and the lessons and the partnerships that we've created with that, and the feedback that we've gotten from our teachers. And then lastly, we're going to be taking a look at the different celebrations that we've had. The celebration we've had in November, our commemorative celebration, and the new and renewed community members that we have and the partnerships that we've built, the communication avenues that we've had, as well as what our families have said over the course of the year. So without further ado, I would like to turn over some of the introductions to our different members from the PAC. If you would like to go over, I'm going to turn it over to my next door neighbor here. Would like to introduce yourself.
I'm Hannah Hafner. I'm a Singaporean Minnesota. Yeah, I'm pretty new to being a board member, but we've been coming to this PAC since we moved here in 21. Granted, that was COVID time, so it was a little different, but yeah, is that on?
You're where you can go.
Oh, I was going to. Hello, my name is Kristen, and both of these, you know, but
I think it's meant for like people behind me, but maybe.
My daughter is raised to Jackson. She is
My name is Veronica Ashton. My grandchildren go to Evergreen and Afternoon. And we're Northern Arapaho from Wyoming. We have one more board member that just walked in. If you would like to introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, I'm Megan Jenny Sanchez. I'm a member of the Claritas of Grand Ron and a descendant of the Claritas of Gillette and Salish. My daughter attends Century High School and my son graduated from high. Thank you so much.
We as a PAC wouldn't be able to do the work that we do without the backbone of so many creative people and tirelessly working throughout the year supporting the PAC. Francesca is our Equity Access and Engagement Director, and Jennifer. And then we also have Stephanie Moreno, who is our Administrative Assistant, as well as Olga Bunya, who supports us through the federal grant. So thank you, everybody. So just to review what Title VI is, it is an Indian education program meant for those who have registered tribal affiliation, and that is known through their Ed 506 forms that they submit to the district, so that they have an identification card that comes with them, so they can register their students for this program. It's federally funded, and that's where Olga comes in with her support through the foundation. And then it gives them access to activities, events, and scholarships. And we'll go into that in detail in a little bit. So I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer.
Thank you. This year was really exciting. Last year I got to start supporting the PAC when Barb was still supporting or facilitating monthly meetings with the PAC. And seeing what they were doing and then being able to move into collaborating and talking about what is important as the PAC grows and more people join. So this year we were able to have conversations. Then after gleaning information from all of the members, we were able to send out, Susan was able to send out a survey so that they could choose their top 10, I believe, items that they would like to move forward on working with. And so this is just a list of a few of the things that they have accomplished or will accomplish throughout the school year. And then we've already revisited that and taken meetings and are building on new list of the values or the passions that to specific classes or language, dancing, drumming to the members, individual members and families within
to the next slide. That's this one. So a lot of the things that we planned around alongside our parent advisory committee is looking at our HSD strategic plan. So there's several areas that we wanted to focus on, and one was attendance. So looking at our student population, our goal for any student population, in fact, our whole student population, is to get our students at 90% or above in their attendance rate. As you can see, our regular attendees that have shown up to school on a regular basis of 90% or better is at 57.1%, or 44 out of 77 students. Now that number is not necessarily exact, but we do look at this number and try and figure out ways that as a PAC we can figure out how to support our students in ways that they will want to attend school. A lot of the things that we are noticing that our students need in their schooling system is to be seen, to be appreciated, to be visible, in not just among their teachers, but among their peers in their curriculum, to make sure that where their cultural norms are and where their cultural richnesses are is supported. So some of the things that we looked at through the strategic plan is getting curriculum updates. So some of the things that we do through this is meeting with people from ODE on a monthly basis and talking with them and learning not just ODE, but people throughout the state and learning what they're doing throughout their districts and learning what plans are in place for their curriculum strategies. We have our monthly PAC meeting like we talked about, and we're going to go into more detail in a little bit. And individual support when necessary. And this might look like somebody from the Equity, Access, and Engagement team reaching out to teachers, reaching out to principals, reaching out to grad coaches, counselors, whoever needs to have that conversation about what kind of supports we can offer as teams, not just individuals, but as teams to ensure that students are feeling welcomed in school, feeling like they belong, and feeling like there's a reason to continue on with education and feel appreciated while doing so. We do tabling events through middle and high schools, and it's been fun to watch. I've had the privilege of going to all these wonderful schools and talking with kids. And then there's special events like drumming, which is still happening. Okay. Going to different events like that and summits and whatnot. So I'm going to go to the next one, and we'll talk about the other things in a little bit. So here we are at the local community event, and I have another person, Kristen, that is, I think it's Kristen, that is going to present a little bit about her experiences with me.
A little bit of a speech, I'll try to talk as fast as I can. My name is Kristen Vasconcelos. I'm Hawaiian, Portuguese, and Native American, Navajo Lucas tribe. I have the personal pleasure to attend events with both packs, but specifically, this one has brought me so much joy and growth in my community. As someone who isn't native to this area, I have found community. Our leaders of these packs are native to other cultures, and their desire and willingness to help and support our needs are appreciated. As Native American and Hawaiian, cultures and our roots so forgotten, we have been pushed into a world where we feel we have to hide our identity and beliefs. It can be hard to find safe places to embrace who we are. I've had the pleasure of attending OMSI Native American Science Night, a powwow at Pacific University, a canoe adventure, learning to sew. I've also assisted with supporting our local students in high school with information of joining our pack. Our connection to other schools and districts has brought me to my community. Natives are good at hiding and protecting our peace. I personally have dived into my culture more than I ever have since living here in the Hillsboro area. There are a few struggles I see in the community. One is the lack of parents who aren't educated on these cultures. They are unable to support their students who may be fascinated by another culture. I do see the disconnect from seeing how my daughter's school is trying so hard to support their cultures at their school. I have seen our packs grow and grow. People are coming in and out of hiding, and this is why we need to continue what we are doing to support these cultures and our community. Having our voices heard and more support with our schools and education and in our community. No child, no parent should ever feel ashamed for their beliefs and proud to share this with their fellow community. These events are important to us. Seeing each other often is important, supporting one another as a pack, and connecting one to resources to support our families, our children, is the main purpose of this pack. And these are general ideas of what we would like to see as much as of our fellow friendly Native American faces of this pack.
Next slide is on secondary tabling. And I think Susan touched on it briefly. We definitely want to give more time to our board members and our PAC members that are here tonight. So this is just to show that many of the PAC members and Susan have been able to make it into the secondary settings to have students have access points into seeing what's available for themselves and their members to participate with them.
So here's our monthly meeting attendance. As you can see from September through now, we've had a variable array of attendances, and because we've had different things happening, we've had voting bylaws, we've had other things like fry bread making and having storytellers. And these are just some of the things that come to our, that we try and plan for these events.
And just an FYI with that, last year we averaged about a handful of families that were attending. So to see some of our meetings close to 30 people is a huge growth from where it had been.
So now I'm going to turn it over to Johanna.
So some of the things that we have been doing this year, I think that's
You have two slides, so you can.
Basically, we want to tie in like something for our culture while we're doing our PAC meetings. For a couple years with Barb, we did not. It was just like, here's the thing we're reading, and that was it. Goodbye. Which is fine, whatever. But this has been so good to like come up with things to do, and a lot of like the members put them on. So like Maria did the fry bread making because she has a business where she has like taco truck. So she brought her recipe and all the kids explained it. drumming, and, you know, we get all of this information about community things. So, like, Mara came, and that was really great. And then the powwow coming up is like a great time for like people from there have come and talked to us about it. They've helped with our ribbon skirts, and they even opened up like a competition for drawing the posters and like what would be on t-shirts and students, so they were able to submit some art if they wanted to. So that's been good. We had storytellers. That was really fun, like in different times than we've had before. I've never seen this silence before. It was really fun, especially for the kids. And then the music was really great. We performed a song for one of our members that she wrote performance pathway. So they are just like very big community building events for us. They're it can be really hard with our culture instead of like doing with more people like that. So yeah. Right now we're working on some regalia for the powwow and
this is data that we wanted to show how students that we've identified or that are identified under education within Synergy are less than 1% of our population within the enrollment of Hillsboro School District. And so what we are focusing on and working harder at is identifying all those students that identify as 2 or more, so that we are creating opportunity and community and services for all of the students that identify as Native American, Alaskan Native, and that is still a work in progress that I'm excited to dig into.
So I wanted to talk a little bit, touch on this a little bit. We talked about curriculum development at the beginning, and tribal history, shared history is a crucial part of our curriculum. This is a part of Native American education that we want to ensure that our teachers and our educators are working through. And so now we have at least 200 HSD educators who have been trained. And we've had all our 4th grade teachers that have been trained in tribal history, shared history. And then we have our PE teachers that are up next, either this spring or next fall. And then we do have educational guidance for elementary and secondary groups, which looks like a scope and sequence of during certain months things are being taught. And then the goal for the upcoming year, is to have all K-3 teachers being trained in the next school year. And just some of the feedback that I wanted to share of some of the teachers because of their training, that it's been helpful. They've connected to the idea of being able to share that for their students and feeling a sense of not just weaving through the sense of belonging with their community, but through other different cultural groups. And then having great ideas to share with their students and being able to use those additional resources. So here's another strategic plan that we were looking at over the course of the year, and looking at the graduation rates for our seniors. Now, if we look at this, you will see that there's 11 students on this. This was last year's data, and one person, if they did not graduate or were off track, made a significant difference. So just having 10 out of 11 students being able to graduate makes a huge difference as opposed to any other cultural group. So here we are, our Native American Indigenous Month celebration that happened in November. It was it was a great celebration and seeing the community come together. And I have Mrs. Addison here to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to turn the mic over to her.
My name is Veronica Addison. My family and I have been attending the NAPA monthly meetings. Aaron Rose, Morgan Raffles, and Wyoming, all the ones who are resolution. My husband Dominic and I have been raising our 4 grandchildren, and they are Purple Haze, Iron Eyes, 8th grade at Evergreen, Morning Sky, Iron Eyes, 8th grade at Solitude, Anna Lily Addison, 4th grade at Solitude. She is also on the homeschool program due to her disability. And we saw it in the kindergarten at Solitude. Dominic is a full-time employee with Hillsboro School District transportation of the budget. The NAPAC meetings are of interest, and they share information about what the school does and what the other school districts do. They share upcoming events and dates and times of power. In one of the past Indigenous activities, I shared a write-up about my dad, who was in World War II, and he was the only Native American in his troop, and how he was spoken up in the pop culture when the war ended with him and our northern raffle. Our grandchildren are learning to make their own rhythm spirits. They're singing of the drum on Wednesdays. Mr. Paul. In the past, they went canoeing, participated in craft making, and have met new people. I believe this group has helped our grandchildren become braver each day because they are more talkative about their school days. We as grandparents speak for our grandchildren. We show them the way as their world here becomes familiar, friendly, and fun. They'll become independent, grow, and adopt to regular families.
So here is an opportunity to be able to support and facilitate a new and renewed partnership with between the NAPAC and our community members. Many of these people or organizations that you see on the right, we have had partnerships with them. They have been renewed this year through the request of the past members and the activities that they are wanting to bring in and the education and learning they're wanting to bring into their families. And then this is the way that we so far have been communicating out activities, information, events, and of course we're always looking for new ways to meet the needs of all of our students and families, and so we will continue to do that. But this is one, several of the ways that we found were successful this year.
And lastly, just some of the feedback from our families that have either shared information with us through emails or text messages, noticing that there's a huge uptick in our PAC attendance every month, and having it being exciting, and it being wonderful to witness the positive changes happening in our PAC so far, and the collaborative relationship that has been built for us throughout the year. And we just want to reiterate these things because I think it's imperative that we see the growth happening throughout the year, and we oftentimes, work with our community with things that are happening in their schools, and we want to support them as best as we can, support them in their cultures, support them through curriculum in any way that we can possibly. So with that said, we have ended our presentation, and we thank you for listening for the last 20 minutes. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask anyone.
Any questions from my fellow board members?
I'm going to admit that this is absolutely beautiful, and the first thing I did was look up the significance of the ribbon skirt because I'm presuming that I missed that. because I was slightly late, so please forgive me. But it would be so awesome if you guys could then share the significance of this with those around them. Now that I'm reading it about the symbols of womanhood and strength and water and earth and resilience and survival, that's like mind-blowing. And now I understand the skirts that I have seen when I go to events like what I just came back from in San Antonio, Texas. So for the National School Board Association. So anytime you get a chance to shout out what this really means would be phenomenal. And if you have an event where we could come make one or learn how, if that is acceptable from a cultural standpoint, we'd love to join you.
Want to share Penelope?
And Susan helped us a lot with it because we do not have any clothing we have coming out. So these events have helped us a lot to gather stuff for ourselves and to represent health control. I don't have anything. And I think that's the problem with a lot of new generation Native Americans in today's society is a lot of our artifacts have things that we would love to share that our children are not able to share. So I would love to share a piece of my history and how I was brought up with my daughter. And I can't do that, and because of the group, I now can. There's a lot of like evolution of it as well. It's not like it looks like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's another thing. I'm also done. I didn't catch you in time.
And Nancy, if you'd like to come, we've been spending the last couple of weeks, so tomorrow actually we're finishing up the ribbon skirts and the ribbon shirts. For the boys, they wear ribbon shirts, which have been a little bit more tricky. But those we're finishing those up tomorrow. So you're welcome to join us tomorrow between, 5:30 and 7.
So yes, these invitations were for the board members. If you wanted to come see what we're all about tomorrow and in our May's meeting as well.
I just wanted to say thank you all so much for all of the board members for coming and presenting. I'm really just impressed with how much heavy lifting this PAC has been doing this year, because you clearly had to establish new bylaws, elect in a new board, and then also, as Kristen and Joanna were telling us, completely change the structure of kind of what you were doing previously, where you're getting more member feedback and finding out what people want out of the monthly meetings. So, and that all on top of also doing the November celebration that you hosted for us at Aranco Elementary. So that's just, it's been a big year, and I'm just so impressed with your ability to, kind of pivot and figure out what is going to make families want to keep coming back. And as Kristen said, kind of come out of their shell, come out of hiding, and really be able to find community together. So it sounds like you're accomplishing a lot. Thank you.
I have a question. So the registering of students that are 2 or more, is that still, does that mean they still qualify under the program, or this is just to recruit more students to participate in some of these activities?
Recruit more students.
So they don't
recruit more students.
So if they don't have a tribal card, that's okay, because as long as they can do 1 or more. No, I got it.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming so much. And question more for staff. So with less than 1% and 12 undergraduate, I know we've had some reports of data where we data not available, or the metric is unclear because it's too dangerously close to identifying a single student. How close is that for this group?
I can answer that too, and Brooke can help you. When we did our 10 is the number we're
Oh, right there. Okay. Gotcha.
But we also, Mark, I appreciate the question, because when we were building our strategic plan 4 years ago, we looked at student groups that have small populations.
Yeah.
And then we decided that, like, ethically, it's okay to create a goal around a student group that showed data that we needed to help. We needed to do better as adults in the system to make sure that the school system works for those students. And so whether or not the data is suppressed at the state level, we still have the right, and I feel like the obligation to attend to that student population. So, thank you.
Answer to Nancy, what you said earlier about any opportunity that you can have to explain the history and the significance of, like, the ribbon skirt, to take that opportunity. That's what the tribal history, shared history, one of the goals that's behind it. And so as Susan had explained, one way that we're doing it in Hillsboro is really through an integrated approach. And so we work closely with Gina, who you guys have met before, and Becky, who are our directors of teaching and learning, to come together to give them feedback on what we're hearing from families and from students and help them to train our teachers. Now, are we there yet and have we arrived? No. But some of the people at the state were so impressed with how we're working on this integrated project that they published for Hillsboro what we were doing to integrate it in February. I can't remember what date it was, but that they want others to see how we're doing it. So I'm very proud. It's harder. It would be very easy for us to say, okay, you three go out and teach. Let's just get through it and make sure. But when you have that integrated approach, then you're able to involve it in all your subject areas. And our tribal history, shared history gives guidance to secondary folks in all in all subject levels, as well as in our elementary. So there's opportunities to make it practical throughout the day. So I am proud of that. There's work still to be done. It will be ongoing. We need to move it forward and stay intentional with it. But I am proud of the work that we're trying to do in collaboration.
Any other comments or questions?
Looks like
Chan?
Thank you, everyone. And can you hear me okay? Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. And I'm sorry I couldn't be in the room with you all to hear this presentation, but it's been really amazing to see how this PAC has grown and evolved over the last several years. And so just huge kudos to everyone who's been involved in that. Fran, I think you answered a little bit of my question, which was around the tribal history, shared history, what that training looks like, and who's the one who actually conducts those trainings, how long are the trainings, what information is actually being shared in those trainings. And I think you already kind of shared a little bit about that, but anything else or any additional information about the trainings would be helpful.
They're huge templates if you ever want to go on the ODE website of what we follow. Initially, when this passed, when the bill passed, we were relying a lot on our Grand Ronde and Celeste tribes who had put out information. But since then, the state has been slowly rolling out more. And I know Audrey could speak to it as well as Susan about the context of how the lessons, but they're huge. If anything, there's too much information, and we really try to, in HST, whittle it down to content areas so that people can make it accessible. I don't know if you want to share what it looks like or how many people have been trained in the extent.
Sure. Some of the training that's happened is about 200 teachers so far. We've been having like an accounting system of who has and who hasn't been, so we can make sure throughout time, because of budgets, we have to make sure that we spend that money on that training, but spend it, within reason. We have all our fourth grade teachers trained up to this point. Our PE teachers are coming on board next. And then hopefully in the next year, we're going to have all our K-3 teachers trained to teach tribal history, shared history. So that's kind of where our trajectory is going in the next year or so. Beyond that, we're going to keep teaming with our teaching and learning team to see where they're at.
And do you as PAC leaders provide those trainings?
No, we have people that are, sorry, Stan. we have people that are trained in our TOSA team, and Susan can support, but Gina McLean, Becky King-Smith, some of our TOSAs are trained in that, and so they go over what the teachers need to train. So as new teachers come through, they get trained. So, and then once, for example, the fourth grade teachers have been trained, then they figure out where it works best in their content time in elementary. We have 30 minutes every day for content that rotates through things like this, science, health, all those other standards that are taught in the elementary. And then at the secondary level, it's taught through courses. So depending on the grade level, often it fits very nicely in our social studies courses at the secondary level, but there are places where it shows up in other spaces as well, depending on the standards. And it's sometimes a little bit different at an IB school versus an AP school in terms of grade level.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Already?
I believe they have translated the lessons in Spanish already for our places that are operating it as a dual language situation. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Thank you all again.
Thank you. Well, thank you for taking the time to be here with us tonight and sharing all the work that you're doing and continue to do. So thank you for that. So thank you. Our next agenda item is the bond development update with Beth.
Minutes for
Jackson. You know Mr. Market Jackson? Don't know him? Take care of that.
Great.
I have to, you're great.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That's for calendar committee. You're looking good.
Okay. Oh, you do? Oh, yeah. Oh, but watch out when I do. It's going to be a real surprise.
Oh my gosh. So
For how long?
Without doing that. Right now, people are looking at the house. Right now, it's happening.
Or you could do something more. Just travel, that's your thing, travel?
That city where they have the dinner that bow.
I got it. I was like, what? I love this. There's that. You got, okay, in your budget. Yeah. Okay. I was just letting you.
Australia. Yeah, I can't stand latitude, so.
Oh, okay.
Howdy.
Did you find it?
Oh my God, it's all in part.
Oh.
After the other one.
a picture of
In Japan.
Oh, you do?
She was in San Antonio. It was ironic.
Really?
We were like, oh,
Stop. That is
we met
funny.
in front of the Alamo.
I've been trying to plan
It was hysterical. We were just like, how in the world do we get?
All right. Everything else.
Like, here you are.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was hysterical.
Oh, class. Thanks for allowing us to have a moment of transition there between the first presentation and our bond update. It is my pleasure to introduce our consultant, Jeremy Wright from Wright Public Affairs, who is going to talk to you this evening about our recent polling results and share some insights about the likely makeup of voters we might see in November and answer any other questions you might have about where we are currently in our bond development process.
Thanks for having me. I'll just dive right into the presentation, and I don't know probably just let's hold to the end for questions, and happy to answer questions you might have. Jump right in. So before I dive into the actual results of the polling we did, I always like to kind of level set for groups and present our polling, the how we do it and why we do it. So, why do we poll? The loudest voices, the most persistent people are the ones who tend to drive policy decisions, yet their perspective may not reflect the voters writ large. Polling is a scientific way to provide you with statistically accurate data that allows you to sit back from fiction, make smart strategic policy decisions. So in this case, we wanted to poll to help start the development or help finalize the development of a bond that you might placing on the November ballot. What is the difference? How is polling, the type of polling I'm going to present today, different from other stuff we do as community engagement, we are out there at the school district. So a poll that we're going to present today is a quantitative, which is like a factual base of how the voters in your community feel about something. It has, verified sample of voters. We're talking to people who are targeted for the election. We have statistical samples. We have margins of errors, all that stuff. Other stuff is really important. We do community surveys, web surveys, parent engagement, PTA, staff feedback. People come here and testify. People give you feedback online. But those are kind of qualitative. We call qualitative. Those are folks who opt in and say, hey, I want to tell you what I feel. What we're presenting today is a statistical sample of who your voters, how your voters feel about a bond and about your district at large. I always also say this. Polls are a snapshot in time. They're not a crystal ball. So please remember this. I think one of the reasons polling gets a lot of bad rap in the industry is because people think what is something today is what is going to happen in 6 months in November, right? It's not. What polling does do is can give us a path. So here's where we are today. And if we say these things, this is where we can go. That's a little bit different from that is what's going to happen. And so just remember that as I present these numbers. Elements of a good poll, voters shouldn't be tipped off. So like in this case, we didn't say, hey, have Beth make an announcement, hey, answer your phone. We want to make sure it's blind. The final data should reflect the actual audience. I will talk about that again a little more in a minute. The large enough sample size to have a margin of error under 5 points, so it's 95% confidence in the number. In this case, that was 400 voters. We always want to ask ballot questions early on, so we just get a blind case, because that's the one thing we know every voter is going to see on their ballot, which is the caption of the question. We want to test the various components of a bond or a levy and measure perception of districts. We don't just always test positive messages. In this case, we didn't do negative, but a lot of places we do both negative and positive. And we always want to re-ask at the end, hey, how do you feel about this episode and everything? So we see that progress or lack of. So, finally, how do we poll? This is just a mechanism. So kind of answer some of your questions you might have about these numbers, how we got them. First thing we do is get a list of every voter in the district, so a comprehensive voters roll from the Washington County election. Then we looked at your target election date. In this case, it's November of 2026. And we create a universe of what that target election date looks like. So that is, if you think about it, you have this big circle of like every registered voter in your district, and then everyone who lives in your district, registered voters, and then likely voters in a specific election. Some elections, that circle can be bigger or smaller. In November 2026 election, that's going to be a bigger circle because we're expecting 75 to 80% of registered voters to actually vote. And then we'll randomly call this cell phones and landlines. It's those in this case. It takes tens of thousands of calls to get 400 people to complete a 12-minute survey. These days, people can pick up it's hard. We stop calling once we reach our desired sample size, 400. We make sure our sample size reflects that target election date, November 26th, and then we analyze the results, and we're going to talk about those. This specific poll, we asked voters about a bond proposals that Hillsboro School District is considering, $430 million. what are the voters, the purpose of this is what are the voters' attitudes towards this proposal, the district itself, what do they think about, do they think the district prioritize? The reason this type of poll we did was we really wanted to understand the projects and the proposals that the bond committee was considering, price sensitivity, and so they could have the tools necessary to put together a winning bond. There are other types of polling we do, which is like, hey, what's the best message? What's the best way to talk about this? Or what, that was not the purpose of this poll. The purpose of this poll was to give the group the tools and understanding of the community's attitude towards possible bond projects and price points. We call it 400. We did the survey in February 23rd, 25th. All callers were bilingual. We also did the calls in Spanish and English to start. We have a 5% margin of error, so 95% confidence in these numbers. So there's, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but very little. And again, we're targeting that November 26th election. And I kind of talked a little bit. Let's get ahead. Again, this is also just one tool among multiple points. It's not the only thing, but it's an important part of your bond development toolkit. How did we design this survey? We always want to ask them out of the gate. After we ask them, make sure that they're actually going to be voters in November 26th election. How do you feel about this bond that we're considering? A basic yes, no on the $430 million bond with bond language. Then we asked them a little bit about like perception of facilities in the district writ large. Then we did hey, let me tell you about the tax implications of this measure. Then we said here bond package comparison, because the bond development committee, when we were doing this work in February, when we did this poll, was considering two different bond packages. They were kind of which one way to go. So we did a bond package comparison, and then we talked about the spending priorities. Here are the projects they're considering placing. What do you think? Help us rank what you think these should be. And then finally, we did a re-ask. So we have 3 data points throughout the survey where we asked people's opinion using bond language of the exact bond. They get a sense of what he proposes in bond. To get a sense of voter attitude throughout the survey towards the bond. All right, quick snapshot of your district. You are a almost split between older voters and younger voters. About 53% of your voters are under age 50. Other half are over age 50, of which 19% are over age 70. You're slightly on the younger side of the district we work in. We work in a number of school districts around Oregon, and we're seeing, we typically see something that's a little higher on the over age 70 and 50, so you have a younger district. Party registration, 31% are Democrats, 47% what we call non-affiliated. It's a technical term, people can say independent, and then 21% Republicans. People always say, wow, what's that meaning independents, right? The main reason for that is, one, that's just been the growing party in the state of Oregon for 30 years. That group, they're not a party, they're a group of people who are just not registered with any party. The second part is with automatic voter registration starting at 8 years ago now. When you get automatically registered, you get registered as a non-affiliated independent. You have to opt into parties. So that group of voters tend to be younger, newer registrants, have never voted before in many cases. So it is the largest group, but it won't be the largest group that you've heard about. What do we think the November election will look like? That's on my next slide here, because I'll show you. We think it's going to be slightly more women than men, so that women, we think it's going to be a little bit older than younger, but not by much. If you remember, you go back, it was 53-40. It's almost marginal. This is, what we see in a higher turnout election. If it were a May primary, this would be way older. And so in this case, November 26th will be kind of close to your registration. However, we're going to see more Republicans and Democrats showing up and fewer independents. Again, that's a factor. People who are newly registered, never voted, won't probably vote in this election. So that's what we think is going to happen in November election here in Hillsboro School District. So jumping into the results. Remember, I said the first thing we did after the first 2 questions, making sure they're not driving, and then saying, hey, making sure that they're registered and they're planning on voting in November elections. Like, let me read you a ballot question. 10-word caption in question. And so it starts off in the winning position. 54% would vote yes, of which 37% vote yes strongly, 31% would vote no, and 15% undecided. These are great numbers, honestly, out of the gate. Think about it. People have never even thought about, I guarantee you, these voters have not thought about a Hillsboro school bond in their life, other than maybe the previous one, but I mean for 2026. So out of the gate to get a plural majority is a really good sign. Also the fact that we have, a fewer amount, we have undecided, that means that's good as well. We've been doing, this spring we did, or January and February, we did a lot of polling in districts around the state. This is the best numbers we've seen. The Portland metro area has just gotten beaten up around tax issues. A lot of local districts are what I call, unfortunately, catching strays from other things, some of them national, some of them local, some of them tri-county wide in the Portland metro area. None of it particularly fair to a lot of these, whether it's cities or school districts, but it's just reality. And you all are in a much better position than a lot of other districts. So they should be happy now with the result. And then we said, hey, let me be clear about what the tax implications are. We said taxes will be lower than the average rate since the last bond. And when we tell them that since the last bond, the average rate, the support jumped by 5 points. So we went from 54 to 59 just by saying, hey, this is the tax implications. Since the last bond, this will be the average rate that when voters were told the bond would keep property taxes lower than the average rate bond. So we're starting to think about kind of what information we want out there. Obviously, making clear that this, tax implications on this are a good thing for voters. That is something we want to make sure we communicate as we talk about the bond. Then we asked voters kind of, what do you think the district should prioritize? And when we were asking them, okay, one of the things that we are seeing is that a lot of times people think in this field, we do a lot of bonds, people say, we have to have a brand new building. We have to have a sexy project they always hear. And the reality is, in today's political environment, your voters want you to take care of what you have, right? They want you to maintain the community-held facilities. And we're seeing this over and over again. And if you look here, when we ask them to rank things, they want you to fix the HVAC, the heating, the roofs, the aging building systems. That was the number one priority. The second, and this is something that we see, is that your vocational career training programs, any investment in the infrastructure or the thing for those spaces are very popular. Repair, safety, and security always does well, and it was the third rank out of the number of ones. They wanted to see expansive, a little lower on the list, music, arts, and athletic programs, and finally, upgrade classroom technology and Wi-Fi. A little note on that, we've seen, there used to be, I remember 2018, when we actually did the 2017 bond with Hillsboro, and Beth and I had a chance to work together back then, and we had the whole one-to-one devices, dark fiber ring, and that was a testing thing. Technology has dropped down a little bit because I think there's concerns about classroom technology, but I don't think this is about infrastructure or, it's more about their concern about how that technology is showing up in the classroom, which is a different thing than making sure the building's Wi-Fi works, right? And then we also asked, going down, so when we said what we should prioritize, these were the big projects, and then we said, okay, specific projects. And then we talked a little more about it. And we said, we do strong favor. So they really wanted you to remove the bad stuff, mold, lead, and asbestos. I'm glad to see that. We replaced some of the heating systems, especially the older stuff. Again, high priority. And improve ADA accessibility. ADA accessibility is something we're seeing in a lot of places as it's becoming more and more popular. I think a big part of that is the boomer generation actually aging older and becoming more aware of why that matters. So a lot of this is more grandparents accepting being accessible to schools. Again, doing a project around repairing roofs, flooring, heating, building materials, CTE programs, installing cameras. So just to understand the difference between these were the categories of projects, and then we asked really specific projects. Again, they tail together, though, the categories and specific projects. We did ask them to say, you know, let me read you two versions of the bond. And I'm not going to read you the exact it was a long paragraph, but basically we said there's one package, and this one is main focus is fixing just the basics. It puts more money into repairing and replacing failing building systems, roofs, heating, structural repairs across district schools. When we read them a more complicated version of that, it was 57% yes, 31% no. And we said, let me give you a different package. And this one spends more money across projects, handles the most urgent repairs in package A, but we're going to put a little more money into vocational training, security, and other improvements. And that was 61% yes, 30% no. And so it's slightly preferred. I would add, though, when you dig under the hood a little bit on the package B, what we found is some of those key items that like vocational training and security, I go back and show you those projects. Those are higher priorities. So, you know, our recommendation is was to the bond development committee to work around the package B's fund preference because of the fact that not only did people like that package a little more, but they like the individual projects that were in that package based on what we read about. Finally, this is what remember I said at the beginning, you know, polling is a snapshot in time, but we always want to see progress in a poll. Remember, we asked the bond 3 times, right? We said the first reaction, we just read the ballot totals to 50%. And then we posted the tax implications, we got to 50%. Then we went through all the projects and back and forth to get an idea of their opinion of those things. And then we asked them a final, after learning about the projects, heard about what the bond funds, you know the cost, what's your opinion now at the end of the survey, and we moved to 64. So we moved 10 points throughout the survey. That's a movement I like to see. It's something that gives you, that shows if we go out into the community and talk about the bond, talk about what the projects are, it's a really good starting point because it shows that we are moving in the right direction. The days, I will say in general, of seeing polling with tax measures that are in the 70s are over. Like, I haven't seen those in a very long time, mainly because voters are in general more skeptical about government deliverability of items, and whether it's school district or county. We're just seeing a generalized cynicism out there. So getting to 64% in a survey right now in the Portland metro area is something that we're really happy to see. Something that I think gives us a really clear path in November, and one that sets us up for success. Now, again, this is all theoretical because we have to replicate what's in the survey, but it's a great starting point, and it was a great piece of set of data for your bond development. So to summarize, bond starts with majority support. We grow that support. That's a good thing. Strong support grows as people learn more. Voters want to fix heating, roofing, and aging building systems, keeping kids warm, safe, dry is the top message. Both bond packages are popular, but package B edges ahead because more categories of improvement. And honestly, trust is a challenge. And this is the thing that I think we saw throughout the survey, throughout the district, throughout the Portland metro area. I represented. We just have to continue to build trust in what the Hillsboro School District is doing. We need to be trusted in how you spend your money. These are messages that we need to be putting out there regardless of whether you're going for a bond, because the reality of any public agency right now is that there's this generalized skepticism, and that is the challenge point here, was one in the survey. And that's it in the survey.
Do you have any questions for Jeremy?
Do you have the whole process of all the questions? Sure. You could maybe put in our board at some point.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah.
Of course, yeah. No, I'm just curious to look at some of the breakdown on the district perception.
I saw, I'm observing. The only thing that made me think twice about this, I was excited about the data, like you said, except for when we got to number 5. the reality is that nobody trusts anybody right now. So this, to me, trust is a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody. You know, people don't trust the government. They don't trust the state government. They don't trust the federal government. And they're depending on where you fall on various issues, you don't trust the school district either. So that one didn't surprise me. What I thought, though, and what I'm hoping is that as we get in front of this and do the thing that you do so well, in conjunction with our partners, that we'll start to invite people to ask questions. We'll have the town hall meetings. We'll have the meetings where people can say, you know, what is this? And like you said earlier, the more we share, the easier this is going to be. I appreciate the fact that you're mentioning that we have a trust issue, but I also think that trust issue is all over the place. Nobody trusts anybody right now.
And I will say that we have passed, you know, a number of bonds and levies in the last 3 years, 4 years, post-COVID, basically it's all greater, really. And with bad numbers around, like, you know, trust or spending or stuff like that, because we're able to make the case that this bond, you know, specifically to the measure, right? Because I think a lot of times you ask a voter, and I sat in focus groups, and I'll be like, what do you think about how Multnomah County is spending homeless services dollars? Well, as you might imagine, strong opinions are at the table in that focus group I was sitting in. Now, tell me what exactly they did wrong over that. Couldn't tell you, right? But, you know, they're mad, right? They're just kind of angry. And so I think sometimes other public agencies get caught up in some of that generalized, just kind of like, and so like voters do have the capability, though, of analyzing a measure before them independently of their overall feelings about the federal government right now or whatever. So like they are capable of those things. I think the second part on the trust thing is that the district has a really good story to tell with the 2017 bond. You did a really, really good job. You have a lot of good things to say. And, you know, one of the best ways to pass a future bond is to talk about what you did previously. And best predictor of success is behavior, right? And that's something I know the district has done a lot already. Part of our bond effort in 2026 will be reminding voters of what that's a trust, kind of connect those things. And there's physical buildings too.
I just appreciate thank you for the work that your group did, but I really appreciate the guidance that this gives us for messaging. As you said, the information is the campaign's best friend, and it's really heartening to me to know that, you know, we've been approaching this bond with, you know, its various package options, kind of knowing that these aren't that glamorous of things. You know, it's building a new elementary school is really glamorous. But, you know, roofs and HVAC and refrigerators are not that glamorous. But, I mean, what we're hearing from this, the story we're hearing is that people care about these basic needs for our kids and making sure that their schools are, you know, these safe and welcoming spaces, in addition to thinking toward the future about CTE and bringing in new, program things for all of the various CTE options for our students. So I think this is all really positive.
I do love the component of the story that the more people learn about it, the higher the acceptance rate. That's probably the feature I'm liking the most, because last check, 53% of people in Oregon are not from Oregon, Oregonians are. So coming from another state 26 years ago, I didn't know that bonds were for things and levies are for people, and you can't fix a roof with levy money. So as you learn more and you realize something like the Liberty HVAC situation had to come out of the general fund because we were out of bond money. So as people learn more about the restrictions that the state of Oregon puts on things, I think they do go, oh yeah, we should be fixing things. So
yeah, and to be clear, that
story to tell.
That growth we haven't seen out everywhere. So it's really nice to see. So to say, oh yeah, cool.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just to mention more discussion, the technology being the lowest polling item, that makes a lot of sense to me because I've been seeing in national news, New York Times, other articles about moving beyond cell phones in districts in other parts of the country, moving away from even Chromebooks all day. Concerns over screen time and student engagement. So I think there's a real backlash out there that people are picking up on, and people who aren't that engaged will just read these news stories. So I definitely think that it makes sense not to lead with that.
To be fair, it's definitely how we described it was these are technology infrastructures like improving Wi-Fi in schools so every kid can take a test or stuff like that. That was the description, but that's not what they heard. I think again, yeah. But.
So what happens now?
Yes. Good question. So the Bond Development Committee had its last meeting this week, or that's just it all blends together. Last Thursday, and they landed on a draft package that they will be bringing to you all to review and approve. There will be a presentation that kind of walks through all the different elements of kind of how they arrived at, and this is one data point, but they had a lot of other data points that arrived at the package they did, and all the different elements of it, and school by school and everything. And then from there, should you approve the bond to go forward to the ballot, at that point, districts authorized to file, and then we start the effort of passing. And that will be a all hands on board, all hands on deck. Sorry, bad word. All hands on deck. So that includes, both all board members and school community members, and getting together political action committee and getting that moving, and then obviously the district getting out there and educating folks as much as possible.
Specifically too, so at your April 28th meeting, you'll have a presentation that's putting the proposal on first reading for you all. So some members from our Bond Development Committee will present that to the board. Obviously, I'll be there as support as well, as will another of our consultants, Evan, from a different agency, will be there too to answer any questions you may have. And then that proposal will be on first reading, and you'll take a vote at your May meeting, hopefully to approve, and then we'll get moving with those other steps that Jeremy mentioned.
What's the filing date for November?
The filing date is August
15th. We'll file before that. Yeah. But that's the technical job that
I think.
So just to clarify, I'm going to piggyback on Jessica's question. In general, what's next? But you just got to the point of the matter. When is our last? What is the deadline that you would prefer for us to say we're going? Yes.
June at the absolute latest, honestly, because if we're not out there running a campaign throughout the summer, it will likely be a little too late.
So then I guess the following question is, do we have to vote on that?
Yes.
And that's planned for May?
That's planned for May, and that was strategic, just in case there was any reason the board didn't feel prepared to vote at that time, so that we would then have June to get it done. And then make sure that we have the summer months to be out there getting things done.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know if Sheehan has a question.
She doesn't have a hand raised.
I think we're all good.
Hey, Jeremy.
Did you want to mention the OSPRA conference?
Oh, yeah. Thanks,
I got your back with some more details.
I had the opportunity to attend the Oregon School Public Relations Association conference, which is and speak at that, but which is a conference of all the kinds of public communicators and public school districts around the state. It's their kind of community group. They get together once a year, and at that conference, they awarded Beth Grazer the School Communicator of the Year.
It's funny and ironic because we didn't know she was going to get that award at that conference. Now, remember, this is the School Communicators Conference.
They had been communicated to you.
No. This is the press release that came out this week. Beth Grazer was awarded the 2025-26 School Communicator of the Year by Oregon School Public Relations Association, or OSPRA, at its conference in Portland, Oregon. Grazer serves as the communications officer for the Hillsboro School District. She was selected for her exceptional leadership in school public relations, her unwavering commitment to transparency and community engagement, and her influence as a mentor and collaborator across the board. Known for her human-centered approach, Grazer plays a critical role in strategic planning, bond development, crisis communication, and media relations, consistently elevating trust and alignment between schools and the communities they serve. Grazer's reputation for responsiveness and transparency extends beyond her district. She is widely recognized by media partners and colleagues alike for providing timely, accurate information and fostering open access to school leaders and classrooms. Her approach reflects a deep belief that proactive communication strengthens public trust, especially in complex and challenging moments. And it goes on, and we're going to publish this press release for you all in the board update. But congratulations and well-deserved for Beth. You want to show off your trophy?
Oh.
We celebrate this.
Yes, we do.
You got a face.
Beth just carries it around like,
I know.
Wow.
when she comes in.
I know.
No, I did ask her to bring it so that we could celebrate. And it was cool. Jeremy brought it up when we were together last week at the Bond Development Committee, like, do you hear about this? And so I invited him to embarrass Beth with us tonight because he's worked with her for years and understands.
So that really wasn't a joke?
No.
They didn't communicate that though?
This is a funny story, but especially Brooke stepped up and helped them with the nomination of Beth. And so she's quoted in this. And then we didn't hear anything about it until Beth snuck away to the conference. And then I'm getting texts like, wow, congratulations, how well deserved. And I'm like, what? Which is normal for me. But then we checked and no, there was no communication. So congratulations. We're going to embarrass you every chance we get from here on out. Thank you, Jeremy, for that.
Welcome back.
I'll be around.
Our next agenda item is the 2027-28 School Calendar Committee.
So, calendar 27-28. Can you believe we're here? So we began meeting this last fall and met through the winter to finalize our draft. And so tonight, the calendar committee's members are going to share some of our recommendation and be available to answer any questions for you. So if we could go to the next slide. Oh, thanks. I was like, sorry, all good. So this is the cast of the great calendar committee 27-28. We had some folks from the last couple groups that we've had. And so the great news is when I gave a little survey, everyone says that they wanted to be back on it, except maybe for our college students that are going to be at college. So it's a fun group, and they've done a lot of work. And so tonight, I will just have folks introduce themselves, and Hazel also will be part of that. So if you
behind you too, right?
I'm Katie Ryan. Thank you for letting me move seats. I don't know if we let the two Katies sit next to each other. Right the one. Katie Thomas. I'm principal of Indiana. Corey Langton. I agree.
Alicia Glasscock, ATA rep for the committee, but I teach fourth grade at MI.
We love you too, Alicia, really, we do.
I'm Hazel Cleveland, and if you didn't know, I'm...
And we also had support from Nicole, Audrey, David, Mary Kay, and Olga. So they're here tonight. I wanted to give a little shout out to them. So we had a lot of voices come together,
And so initially, the calendar committee worked in small groups to create different drafts for the calendar and then presented their proposal to the broader group. And so in those 5 groups, they came down to one draft that we're going to present tonight. And just want to let you know also that this was vetted through collaborative work with student voice, family feedback, very classified licensed elementary, secondary, and district level administrative staff. And we also took it out to focus groups because we had some ideas that we were going to take and maybe make new. And what ended up happening is that we drafted a calendar that was very similar to the 26-27 calendar that's already been adopted. And one idea that the team brought up was, what if we adjust kindergarten start date to align with 7th and 9th grade? And so that was an idea that we brought out. But then when we met with our kindergarten teachers in our focus group, they had some questions, some other thoughts, and said, you know, this might be an idea to pursue, but let's have a group that comes together to kind of pursue that. And Audrey was a part of that group, and I think maybe Katie, right? And so there were some thoughts about that. So we took a pause on that idea, but we got some other pieces of feedback that the team will be sharing that we made some adjustments to. And so tonight, we'll go ahead and kick it off to Katie. Alicia can start us off. And I will be giving hard copies, which I have numbered, and you know I'll collect those back at the end of the evening. So I'll be passing those out, and it'll just be the draft for this 27-28. I'm not making extra copies, but we have it translated in English and Spanish for our families for the upcoming proposal for the first reading. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you guys.
All right. So as we started with our calendar committee, one of the core things that we needed to stop and focus on first and foremost was some of our contracted language. And part of that language is that our licensed contract will work 191 days. Of those 191 days within the calendar, 186 are work days, but 5 are those paid holidays. We also offer 3 days for our new to Hillsboro staff in August, and so we add in those August dates as well, so new staff members would be coming in, new licensed staff would be 194 days, and then we know that we would not exceed 178 days, calendar days for our classroom, for our students in classrooms. We're also taking into account our Labor Day, our Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Martin Luther King, Junior Day, Memorial Day, and which will be an unpaid holiday. So those were kind of some of the things that we were working with as we were starting to build some scenarios.
Yeah, and to continue with that, so in October we have the statewide in-service day, and that's a non-contract day. We have to look at our secondary members have to have at least 1 full work day at the end of each quarter for second and third. And then in order to have time for prep, assessment, just educator work time to get things done. And then elementary members have 1 day for grading at the end of the semester, plus they get 2 days that are member directed. Sometimes during the rest of the school year. Those can be scheduled as half day or full day. And then also all educators are given a day at the end of her semester for additional prep work. So we have to keep all of those things in mind.
Kind of like trying to move a picture in your Microsoft Word, right? You move the picture and everything else has to change. So that's what we were finding. But an additional thing to keep in mind is that from the state, we are required to provide a certain number of instructional hours per school year. We tend to think of the school year as days for the year, but the requirement for our state is 900 hours for K through 6 and 7 and 8, and 990 hours for 9, 10, 966 hours for 11 and 12. And that was something that I didn't know as someone who is not an educator. I didn't know that going into this and have learned it through the course of my experience on the calendar committee. So thank you. And then to looking back at our board meeting that we had in August, when we were first looking at calendars going out and trying to think about approving the new 26-27 calendar and how that would be a shift to starting school as close to September 1st as possible. We know that we have continually heard feedback from the community about, are we starting before Labor Day now? Are we starting after Labor Day now? And so in keeping with starting to as close to September 1st as possible being the goal, Kana's team went ahead and planned out a whole 10 years of when Labor Day occurs, what is the closest Wednesday to September 1st, and then what's the first Wednesday after Labor Day, to kind of give us an idea of where would starting at the beginning of September look for each of those school years starting. So you can see kind of that what we're looking at for this calendar for 27-28 is going to be a pre-Labor Day start.
So we kind of had two main goals for the student calendar, and the first one was staying consistent. We didn't want to shake it up too much, so that does involve the pre-Labor Day start, but also keeping board and semester length pretty similar. And the other thing is that we really want to see exactly what and it just helps with making staff prep before school, kind of going through the years. And we played with both pre and post Labor Day starts, and we just kind of noticed that pre-Labor Day was better in pretty much all ways. Especially looking at this year, with post Labor Day starts, we were like pretty far and nobody wants that. And then with makeup day, it was kind of interfering with Juneteenth. We noticed that with post Labor Day starts, our makeup days would be after Juneteenth, and nobody wants to go in for 2 days after a 3-day weekend. I would, but yeah.
We also wanted instructional continuity, and we wanted to limit the disruptions like this, start and stop. Having short weeks, is hard for teachers and students, and we wanted to maximize those instructional blocks, so getting as many full weeks as possible. We also wanted to schedule some of those professional development days adjacent to holidays or non-contract days, because sometimes families like to, take an extra 1 or 2 days after. So we wanted to kind of put this together so it would, kind of have two objectives, that we would increase our instructional blocks and, maybe help some families not take kids out during the school days. Okay, and then, so looking at just some changes from the 26-27 to the 27-28 calendar, we did make one shift with our new to Hillsboro licensed staff and their in-service time. So they've come, the previous week for 3 days. We shifted it from a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in those new calendars.
Yeah, and there were some interesting things that we need to work around moving forward. So Veterans Day actually fell on a Thursday, and that created a situation where our secondary staff, they have a grade prep day, and elementary does not have a grade prep day at that time of the year. We have what's called a work day. So we have secondary that could do grade prep from home, and elementary would be coming back into the building on that Friday. So that was kind of something that we needed to kind of work around and how would that flow. Because also moving forward, it was leap year in 2028. So that created some interesting pieces. And so we really tried to get creative with thinking outside the box, but we were also kind of in this construct of working within what we could based on the nuances of this calendar. Great. So on this section, you saw this, I think, in August when we had presented the former calendar. And I think it's just a good anchor chart for us to kind of look at what we've adopted and then what our proposal is. And you can kind of look on the actual calendar draft that we have for you in hard copy to kind of see as folks present tonight and have a better understanding of kind of those differences. So Alicia, we'll go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, so our work, the calendar committee's work, really has shown us that starting the closest to September, the beginning of September, September 1st, not really thinking about where Labor Day is, but where is the beginning, September 1st, and how close can we get to that? That really gives our students the strongest academic start to the year.
Another thing that we really focused in on is we have conferences in November, and that's also in it falls funky in quarter one. So we extended quarter one by 14 days in these two calendars, which is great because as we meet with families, we've got assessments that we are now able to take, then sit down and talk thoroughly with families in that part of the year. And it just really was this kind of twofold thing that really helped us out. We know that in September, attendance is so much better district-wide in September. Let's hit the ground running. Let's get in our academics and get some longevity for that quarter one. It gets kids back into a good flow. Welcome back. We're back into school. We're back into those academics right away, quick, out of the gate, so that we could have those good conversations with families in November.
Yeah, and just feeling on what Katie already said, with quarter one ending right before Veterans Day in November, then we have 1 week of instruction, but then we roll right into conferences. So we're really making the conferences that much more meaningful for students to be able to have enough time to use the rest of semester one for getting their grades in a really solid foundation and finishing that semester really strong.
Echoing what they said, it's really nice on the student side to have more conferences, much feedback from your teachers. So making sure you actually have assignments that they can grade and give you feedback on. And then there were some floating holidays in November that we managed to kind of work in, which is nice. Breaks are a lot more consistent. And then also a bit more of a unique perspective with early holidays. Because it gives new students more time to get advising before the PCC term starts, because we start late September. So they have more advisors come in, they get to talk to seniors, they get to talk to their advisors. And it's a small program, so it's not the top priority, but it is.
So starting at the beginning of September is going to help us end the year in a more reasonable time. So we start the first week of September, and then we'll end around the second week of June.
I think one of the things I want to say, too, for the 25-26 calendar, we had kind of what I call a more regular schedule, but the committee said that when they brought the draft forward for 26-27, we haven't experienced that yet. So they kind of want to experience that and then also keep 27-28 kind of in line with that quarter one and see how it goes. But then when they go to 28-29, there may be like, nope, this didn't work. We're going to adjust back to what we have. They wanted to try something different and see what it looked like 2 years back to back. All right, so we're on to our last slide. So this is our timeline for proposed adoption. At the end of the month, we'll bring the first reading, and then in May, have the Board of Directors target their vote for adoption. So are there any questions that you may have for us?
Appreciate the hard work. The question that always comes in my mind now, and I've never articulated this question, but to hear people say it, there's a hesitancy. And we start talking about people who go on vacation and, you know, what the preference is. And those people are always the minority. And yet we get freaked out about it. And because we're still trying to be in an agrarian society, and we're not in an agrarian society anymore. We're still trying to do a schedule that, quite frankly, has nothing to do with our real lives. It has nothing to do with how the children learn. It has nothing to do with anything. And so I don't know. I hope that it sounds like a great idea to start on September 1st, whenever that is, whether it's Labor Day or not, irregardless. I hope you guys withstand the pressure of people saying, well, you know, I don't want to do anything until after the holiday because I can go on vacation. Let's just get them started. Let's start the year. If you and your family want to go, go. Peace out. We'll see you later. Come back. And when your kids are completely dysregulated for 2 weeks after they do come back, then we'll talk about that. But I just want to make sure that you guys stand firm in that and that you feel comfortable in that, because I hear that, but I've never said it out loud. And thank you for allowing me to say that. Just a little bit of entitlement. Even quite fair.
Yeah, I think that's when you have varied voice, Nancy, at the table, you're going to have a lot of those rich discussions, and you're going to be thinking about all of those things. And I think it was good that we had smaller groups that kind of like determined, should we look at kind of a pre or post, and then why would we make those decisions? And we had some trade-offs that happened, because it wasn't just like, this is the calendar of the 5 that we wanted. We had a little bit of like, we're going to take some ideas from here and from this one and see how it looks. And I think we're going to have 2 years that have closer to September 1st kind of start, which is kind of similar to what we've lived through this year. We had a close to September 1st start. So it's kind of that cadence, but it just is looking at it from that lens, and we'll see what the outcome is after we think through it.
Well done.
One thing that really stuck with me was people get hung up on the pre-Labor Day, post-Labor Day, right? But what resonated with me was seeing that chart that Ronna made over the next 10 years. And what stuck with me was as close to September 1st. That said more to me than pre-Labor Day, post-Labor Day. And it took all that away and was like, wait a minute, we're shooting for as close to September 1st as possible. And what does that look like? That was like, I'll sign up for a year or two of calendar committee.
You know, one thing that I have just talking to colleagues and people and doing is we're going to have a shortened summer. And I'm like, you're not. We're still coming back around the same date. You know, August 25th or 26th. It's still the same date. It's just Labor Day. You know, so we're not losing summer. And from what I think, now I didn't go count, but you know, we're not losing summer. We're just looking at the dates. You know, our dates are about the same, maybe a day or two, you know, different. So I think getting that through, helping people to understand that it's you know, it's not we're coming back a week early than normal. No, we're just Labor Day. So I think that helps when you say as close to September 1st. It doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, we're losing out on summer, right? No, we're focused in on as close to September 1st as possible. That may be pre-Labor Day. That may be post-Labor Day, yeah.
We know this isn't easy. We've watched kind of do this dance for a couple years. Couple bienniums now, and it's just not easy. I mean, I thought a schedule was a schedule. My bad.
So thank you. Answer my question. So we're going to keep the calendar committee going. It's a thing that we will continue to do, right? Yeah. No.
Yeah, I actually enjoy it, which is kind of weird, but. Okay. Let me say, it was hard for me the first year. I was where Katie was this year. I was there last year. But, you know, I always thought there wasn't a bunch to do the calendar, like you just, you know, do it. And then when I got in there, I was like, oh, no. Oh, my God. You know, you have to think about so many things. And, you know, our district is big. We have, you know, early college people to think about. We have kindreds to think about. So, you know, it's not an easy task. So I actually enjoy the committee because you get to hear lots of people's perspectives, things that you don't think of. And so it is a nice committee. So I will keep doing it.
I know on the news, Oregon has been under fire because of the national average being 100 and Oregon falling way under on average 168, I think it was. So it's nice to see that we're not all the way down there. But I'm curious how the proposed changes and doing the September 1st start and being at 173 days, how do we compare to other districts in Oregon?
I think they're around maybe like 174, 175. So they probably are also looking at their contract because they also have to meet the measurements that are maybe negotiated through that as well. And ours has it up to 178 days. And that came before I came into this work. But that's been, because it varies a little bit from year to year based on if we have a leap year, when the holidays fall, and all of those kind of like winter break can also have an impact on where we may start and end.
When was the last time we hit closer to the 178?
I did kind of a dig back as far as I could, maybe for the last to 2018, and we've been around like 175 has kind of been our top number of days previously.
I've also been following these, just different issues, both from the like national articles that have been written and some of the local articles that have been written in the Oregonian, which is why I thought it was so fascinating, learning from Audrey about the hundreds of hours of instruction. Because it's not just about, are we at 173 days and is Beaverton at 176? It's also about, how many hours do we count professional development hours toward instructional time? Do we count conference hours toward instructional time? Which, you can look at, and the Oregonian actually did a really cool little like slider thing where you could look at different districts in the metro area and see like, okay, does Escondido have a 4-day school week? Does Metropolitan, okay, they're counting, PD hours and we're not. And so, it's not apples to apples, I guess is what I'm saying. Because it's really interesting to, to be able to say, well, here in Hillsboro, this is what we do, and they might do something different next door, but it's our kids are not in school for the same number of hours necessarily.
Stand for Children has been very active in that, like pointing out the shortness of our school year, and Travis, I had our chat, and I all for it. Like I'm yes and right. So I mean, but recognizing at the legislature or the state level or whatever, you wouldn't ask a fast food worker or somebody on an assembly line or a 9-to-5 person in office to put in more hours and not pay them more. So yes, we want teachers in classrooms for more hours. They need to be paid more. So we don't have that in our budget. So yeah, but yes and. So let's do that and find a way to pay for it. How do you feel about this probably being the last calendar you'll ever have to present?
I think we're going to have to take community volunteers next year.
Oh my.
You can be a member of the committee as a community member.
So we've already have an emeritus chair for at the table. Calendar committee.
Calendar committee emeritus chair.
These meetings at our house.
No, I have to say that the work of the calendar committee has really been a big game changer in terms of just like how we've been able to kind of work through things and just seeing the committee come together with the ideas. And so I look forward to Brian Hotz carrying forward in the work. I think he's going to do an amazing job. And what I think is great is that when you have people that want to stay on it, or you kind of get a people going in and out, you get new people coming in, and then the people that have been like, yeah, we've already done this, and so they're like, oh, we already know the answer to that question, but they're kind of working together, and so that collaboration, that communication really helps then bring this draft forward. And so I'm excited that we can get this voted at the end. Thank you all, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You want these back, right?
Yes, I do want these back. So you pass those in. They're numbered. I'll be passing them in order.
Agenda item. What is it?
Put them in order.
It is allowed. Those always.
Oh, give me a second. Talk about. Yeah.
Wait for the second.
So good. Hi, Olga.
Actually, I probably have more stuff to say on that.
Unless she wants to volunteer. Here, you can have this. Yeah.
I feel like a pen is color.
I want to. I want to.
That's kind of what I do.
I got you.
Okay. I have number 13. Okay.
Somewhere with,
Yes, Vicki Bank. I have
somewhere with.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Lucky number 13.
Yeah. Pen with the pen holding. Okay, our last Division 22. Last agenda item is the supplemental budget hearing and resolution for appropriation with Scott and.
Good evening. Thank you for just joining me. I think it's exactly a year ago, I was with you in this room and I spoke to you about the importance I've used supplemental budgets as having. I know they've been used maybe a little bit more frequently perhaps in the past, but I expect that we will probably bring one to you most years, and this is no exception. Supplemental budgets really allow us to be responsive, transparent. Frankly, they're an accountability tool, and also adjust to things that change and priorities that change throughout the year. And the last thing I'll mention in my little quick preamble is some board members served on the audit committee, and you also heard the auditor say these are positive tools. So I do want to use them just to support the board and its priorities as much as possible. So we do have one tonight. One thing I am changing, though, from last year, I learned sometimes too, is that I wanted to have this in a separate session because supplemental budgets are the board's previews. They're about the current year. They're not the budget committee's previews. So we intentionally separated a little bit. Later this month, we'll have the full budget committee, and we'll go through next year's budget and all that. But this tonight is really just for the board. Jeff and I will answer questions you have. Supplementals do need to be voted on downstairs in public hearings, so we'll put all the agenda, public notices, and all the things that we're supposed to do around there out already. That's where you'll have your chance. But this is really a time for you to ask us any questions, and we'll just walk through what the changes were for this year. If there's anything. Last thing I'll mention, it's not about the supplemental, but we're just, in case the board is curious, we're kind of following the same normal cadence, I guess I would say, of we'll have the budget committee review next year's budget at the end of this month, and then assuming the board approve it, then in June we'll have the adoption and kind of follow the normal process, same way we did it last year, just in case you're wondering about that. Okay, so that's a question for me. Let's my partner here.
When was the last time we had a supplemental?
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I think 2 years ago we didn't, but I think we should have.
Probably should have, yeah.
Okay. And I think I was thinking back to.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably a third in like the last 10 years. This slide just kind of shows the adjustments that we're going to be making for the general fund. I have all the 4 major funds that we have will be on a couple of slides. And just to note, so I'm not reading it every time, each of them will have an adjustment to their beginning fund balance to match what the audited numbers were from the prior year. So it's an accurate amount. For the general fund, we're going to have an increase in our local source revenue due to the SIP expiration, as you can tell. So that increased our local property taxes quite a bit. So we're increasing that portion, and then to go with that, we have a slight decrease in our state allocation as well due to the way it is all, the way the taxes have an impact on the state school fund allocation.
Equalization formula.
Yeah. The numbers aren't quite apples to apples, so we'll have a slight impact probably in next year's budget that you'll see. And then also we have an increase to some of the support services expenditures. Some of that's related to expenses that the capital project fund doesn't cover anymore. And then also Fran and her group have been doing well with the community services and everything. So there's been more expenses than anticipated there. So we've upped that as well to make sure we don't go over.
I should have mentioned too, we put in your board packet the detailed numbers. So if you guys you've got access to, and we're happy to go through it if you have any questions. Oh, sorry, I'm mixed.
Yeah. So the other funds that we have, the special revenue fund, we just ended up, we got more intermediate source revenue, which would be revenue like from county, the ESD, than we had projected originally. So we're also increasing the enterprise and community services expenditures as costs related to nutrition services have gone up. And with the free and reduced meals that we use, it costs more. So we have more food coming in. We're also increasing the facilities and acquisition expenditures related to purchases around Block 56. And that stuff comes into a special revenue fund for expenditures with the receive. With that said, our contingency for special revenue fund will be decreased because that's where all the extra money was sitting when we were budgeting. So we'll be that's where we'll be getting the money from to increase those expenditure line items. For the debt service fund, basically what we're doing here is within budget law, we can't have a contingency, and I missed that portion. So we worked with the auditors on that piece, and all they recommended is that we just needed to do a supplemental to change it. So we'll be moving that over to unappropriated fund balance. And then the capital project funds, we had more funding left over than we anticipated last year. So with that, we had more interest gain, and we're going to have more expenditures than we anticipated. So, but we do plan on utilizing those throughout this year. And so it will, we had a large increase there to match what our actual remaining amount was.
Just say you have a budget for that?
All of it.
Oh, okay. That works.
I think we were originally anticipating around like 1.5 million that we were going to be sitting at, but with the maneuvering we were able to do with last year's funding that happened, we actually ended up closer to 5 million. So it's helping reduce some of the impact of this year's expenditures to help us with what we're planning on this year's budget.
Anybody open to saving some of that for the next biennium when we really get it?
I think we'll have, and I'll talk to the board about this in our next session, but I think we'll have some other opportunities with the Cornelia sale and some other weeks for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, so maybe expand our reserve or the 4.4, just get it up a little bit. Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
That's all the changes. So if there's any other questions.
So again, you'll vote on this at the end of the month, but we wanted to have an opportunity outside of the budget committee to just talk with you about those changes. And if you have any questions or any further questions, we're happy to take them.
No, but every time I go to one of these national conferences, I come back and I want to say thank you. Because everybody does not have this. Everybody doesn't have this level of communication and openness and transparency. So thank you.
I support you all. So.
Well, thank you, Scott and Jeff. Which this now brings us to our discussion time. And we'll start with our student.
Day. 2 weeks ago, I came back from my Washington, D.C. trip. I had the opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. with our city's Youth Advisory Council. It was a very valuable experience with our Congress members representing our district here in Oregon. Most notably, I was able to speak frankly with Suzanne Bonamici and Maxine Dexter, which was a great experience. We went lobbying on Hill Day, which was, again, incredible experience to highlight some of the themes that I'm personally passionate about immigration reform. So I want to thank the city for that, and I also want to thank the district, obviously, for giving me any opportunities. The district is great. On another note, I want to thank the district for all the volunteering opportunities that it's currently been giving me. All the kinder fairs are going around right now, and those are just so much fun. Coming up are the Dia de los Niños events. I hope to see, if you guys can, to attend any of those at all the elementaries that are hosting those, because I think it's an incredible way to connect with our community. And then additionally, coming up, or not coming up, I have a year, but I got accepted into an exhibit with Walters Cultural Arts Center, which is going to be called Face to Face. That is coming 2027 in the summer, so a while from now, but it is really exciting news. And then next week, I will be visiting Yale for orientation, which is really exciting. And yeah, so there are a few comments and updates. And yeah, thank you.
I don't have anything quite as impressive to share, but I was in my last term of PCC, and I am on track to graduating with both my diploma and my associates in science. Wonderful. I had a paid internship through it, so it's been really fantastic, and I'm sad to go, but also really thankful for it.
Well done.
Are you planning to walk in your general high school, your home high school? You walk?
Oh, wow. And what are your plans for next year?
$1,000 scholarship for that.
All right.
Exciting. Congratulations to both of you. Travis?
Thank you. It was already mentioned, I wanted to use my time tonight to comment on the forthcoming news coverage about instructional days, instructional hours. And so I don't want to do things that have already been said, but we have been talking about this as a staff too at the school district. I just want to let the board know that when Stan asks us for our hours and our information, we have that ready to go because sometimes we get inquiries about it. And it's under Division 22 each year that we report to the board how many instructional hours we offer. And when we have inclement weather days, we calculate, are we going to dip down below those instructional hours that we owe our students, et cetera. So this is stuff that we talk about internally. What we haven't spent a lot of time talking about until now is, well, what's our stance when everybody says we should have more days in Oregon, we should have more instructional hours in Oregon? And my stance and the stance of the staff here at the school district is we would welcome the conversation about more hours and more days and an expanded school year, but that has to come with resources. So there are a couple of different ways that that could be accomplished in Oregon. One would be to allocate a pot of money for districts to access if they're willing and able to have that conversation locally, and then we would be eligible to receive that money. That could be done by a legislature at a state level. Another way would be for the state to mandate a minimum number of instructional days or change the minimum number of instructional hours. And again, that would come with resource requirement. Another idea would be to expand summer programming and be more targeted about the students that we do serve with an extended school year. So students who've already accomplished graduation requirements might not go, but students who have yet to demonstrate proficiency towards standards would be eligible for summer school. And that could be another idea. It is a yes and. So when the coverage comes out, I think it's important for HSC to say, yep, we're aware of our instructional hours, and yep, we'd be willing to have a conversation about more, but not without some trade-offs or additional resource. And one of the questions that we asked the folks who are doing this work, Derek has been participating in some of the conversations about it this week, is what's the correlation between an extended school year or expanded instructional hours and student performance? Sometimes we get in a conversation as board and district leaders about a return on investment. So would the best use of every dollar be to extend the school year by X number of days? Or are there things we'd like to do instructionally or around assessment or around inclusion that would help raise student achievement that would be a better ROI? Those are conversations we have not had yet related to the news coverage that's come out. So I just want to assure the board that we've done our homework on this and we're aware of the news coverage that's forthcoming. There's more conversations than it's going to start than have been resolved regarding the topic. So please direct questions to me and us as a cabinet if you have questions as those stories come out. Thank you.
Thank you. And then that brings us to director time. Patrick?
One thing I wanted to mention briefly that's been in the news recently is that two school districts, Riverdale is increasing their local option levy when they take it to the voters this year, and Canby is seeking a first-time local option levy. So I bring up every once or twice a year that I think before, if we ever get in a position where we feel like reductions are necessary, we need to be looking at a local option levy. And so the fact that that's happening with a lot of districts just this week in the news, I think is worth noting, director's information. And secondly, on a more fun note, so I don't know if any of you use the sort of forum website Reddit, but most cities have a subreddit, which is like a little forum where people discuss a topic. And so on the Hillsboro subreddit, I follow along sometimes. Sometimes educational topics are discussed, people saying, well, what do you think of your school or whatever. But there was a fun one recently. Someone posted, what kind of nacho sauce do they use at Century High School? Because I graduated a few years ago and I've never found as good nacho sauce at Century High School. I need to know what nacho sauce do they use. Like 100 comments of people talking about what kind of nacho. One person said, I think I've tracked it down that it's Land O'Lakes, and so that was the consensus. But
services, they're called them.
Joy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick. Nancy?
Just wanted to share with you all that I've just returned from San Antonio, Texas, and the National School Board Association meeting there. Another phenomenal opportunity to get together with people who do what we do on a national level. There were a couple of things that stood out to me. One was the session that I participated in with regard to impacts of HR 1 and SNAP benefits and child nutrition. Keep that in the forefront of your mind as you hear things. While I am not suggesting that everybody doom scroll, I am saying that it is making a difference, and it's very interesting how nationally now people are starting to figure out, like, oops, this is really going to be a problem, and oh my God, this is really going to be a problem. One part of that was discovering and confirming that the Department of Agriculture did kick back to the Department of Education funding for nutritional. Because if you recall, for a while they were talking about offloading that to the Department of Agriculture, and that didn't happen. Actually, they did it, and then they kicked it back and said, no, that's not really what we do. What we are hoping at a national level is that we have kind of put a bit of a plug in this decimation of the Department of Education. And this is arguably the first time that I've had any indication that this actually might work, that we might have some version of a Department of Education left after certain interests are proliferated in the White House. We will see, but the National Association of School Board members, they are watching that very closely, and we get updates on it. So just keep that in mind, but it always warms my heart when I know that we're talking about the things that we're looking at on a national level. And it also then makes me feel good that we're on target. The other session that was super impactful for me was facilitated and given by a man named Zach Cass. If you've never heard of Zach, Zach was one of the 8 individuals who created the first ChatGPT back in 2010 for OpenAI. Now, I'm going to confess that when they said this was going to be our guest speaker, everybody was like, who is this? And then I was like, oh no, don't tell me he's one of these entitled tech bros that's going to, and we're all going to get up and walk out and all the things. Oh my goodness. This man had more humanity, more sincerity about children. He had more ideas about how we really should embrace AI and what it really is about. It was absolutely staggering how I felt about, and we're actually trying to get this man to maybe even see if we can get some people together to get money to bring him to Oregon. He was absolutely phenomenal. But the point of his conversation was that we can't let the 9% of people who do the bad things with AI, we can't let them guide the whole conversation. We absolutely cannot. what we have to do is embrace this as a tool. And the statistics are saying that every other industry is picking up on this like that, except for education. Not sure how, not sure why, other than we are obviously hesitant to change, and I understand that. But this conversation really, really opened my eyes. There is so much that we can do, so much that we can do for our children, and so much we can do for ourselves. It's not just about focusing on the job that's going to be replaced. How about we focus on the job that's going to be approved or improved? How about if we focus on not replacing a teacher? He is absolutely against that 100%. And he said, but imagine if the teacher could be more efficient. Imagine if we presumed that all children were brilliant, but it is our responsibility to give them the environment to help that manifest. That was deep coming from a guy that's a gazillionaire. And it was amazing, absolutely amazing. But anyway, so great time, new president coming in for NSBA. Apparently there is a trajectory for people from the state of Connecticut, and they've had several directors of or presidents of NSBA, and another one is stepping in now. He's a phenomenal person. The NSBA organization as itself is still feeling financial challenges. There are still some states who are thinking about, including Oregon, what our dollar gets us for being a member of that organization. And then I think about what I just went through in Washington, D.C. in January, when we did the same thing you did. And we went and we lobbied and we talked to all the people, and it just seemed so worth it. But then something will happen and you'll think it's not worth it. So that conversation is coming up. So I just wanted to let you know that conversation is definitely coming up. But I just wanted to say thanks again for your support, for allowing me to take off of work and go do the job that really, really matters in my life. And for the first time, I think I can articulate. I initially started this service. I thought I was doing it for my son. I'm not. I didn't realize that until I realized that public schools are the foundation of our small d democracy. And the moment we lose them, we've lost our democracy. And I've never been able to articulate that until right now, until today, and until this weekend. And it feels good to be able to articulate it and know that public schools are worth fighting for. So I just wanted to tell you, sometimes the light bulb comes on a little later for others. I'm one of them, and I may be old, but the light bulb is on. So watch out.
Mark?
Thanks for continuing to represent us at the state and national level. Look forward when you're the OSBA president. It'd be great. Some of y'all know that I am running for another office, just for what it's worth. There, apparently, I don't know how this got around. There's like it was a rumor or something, but in a recent interview with some press folks, it was implied that my board service was coming to an end. That's not true. So if you heard this, it's not true. There are at least 4 that I can think of current representatives in the State House that serve on their board at the same time. If I am fortunate enough to be chosen, I'm not planning on leaving. So I don't think I have the capacity that Representative McIntyre has, who is serving in the House and is their board chair. I don't think I would be that good. I don't have that kind of time. But so if you've heard that I might be leaving, it's not true. Planning to stay. Just want to make sure y'all know, stuck with me. And just Patrick mentioned the news. I don't know about you, but STEM kids of the world like me unite and rise up and thrive. I was just enthralled by the Artemis 2 mission. Like, I don't know about y'all, but the human beings who have been farther from the earth than anybody else in history have made it back safely. And I was just enwrapped in that magical experience. And I hope y'all had a chance to, like, at least have it into your purview somehow because, when I was a STEM kid, all that, yes, it's amazing that we were able to do it, and I'm glad that we're going to be going back to the moon on a fairly regular basis. And it's great how big accomplishments like this can unite us, even if we disagree on a bunch of other stuff. We can all be, like I talked about the Olympics a couple weeks ago, like sports, things that unite us as Americans, as humans on the planet. This is one of them for me, and I hope you all enjoy it too.
Thank you, Mark. Katie?
Yes. So wanted to say thank you once again to Audria for another wonderful elementary school visit to Tamarack at the very beginning of this month. Sheehan and I did that visit, and Sheehan, I'm going to let you talk about all the cool stuff we saw, but I'm also going to make a plug for at the end of this month, right before our next board meeting on the 27th, we are planning to go to Free Orchards Elementary School. So if any other board members would like to join us, that's a Monday. Also wanted to say, I'm sorry that she's not here in person, but our own Jocelyn had a very big part in Hill High's Urinetown. That was, the production was right before spring break. She did a fantastic job. It was a very high energy production, and her physical comedy was just unparalleled. And also wanted to say that I got to see Kira's daughter in The Music Man, and her role was a school board member. So we really enjoyed that proximity there. Also wanted to say that right during spring break and after spring break, had an opportunity to have some brief meetings with some of our local legislators. I met with Representative Watanabe and her chief of staff. They were incredibly interested in HSD and the opportunity to learn more about kind of what we've been doing and what we've been working on. And then Jessica and I also met with Representative McLean to hear some of her perspective on the most recent short legislative session as well. So we're just really happy to continue those relationships with the people who are representing us in Salem and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Jessica?
I don't have much to say. I think everyone said most of what I wanted to say already. Other than it's like almost the end of the school year, and that is just crazy to me. My son is almost 16, does not have his driver's license, and I'm just thinking of all these things as a parent that I'm like navigating, and I'm not even teaching. I'm not in the classroom, so I just want to thank all of you that are navigating personal things and being parents, HSD parents, working in HSD, and then also doing campaigns and stuff. That's just crazy. So so just wishing you all luck for the next chunk of time until the end of the school year. Is going to get crazy, but it's also my favorite time of the year. As a former educator, it's just seeing all the growth the students have made, and just I've been hearing a lot of students and hearing our two representatives talk about their future goals and everything that they're doing. It's just so inspiring and motivating. I'm looking forward to more of that of our students that are about to graduate. I know we have some people over here that have students graduating too, so that's exciting.
Thank you, Jessica. Sheehan?
Yes. So a couple weeks ago, we were able to go to Tamarack, which thank you, Audria, for organizing all of that. While we were there, we were able to visit a couple K-1 classrooms, as well as a 6th grade classroom, and visit the OMSI lab, which was really amazing just to see how that partnership has come together. But in terms of K-1, it was fun to see kind of the early literacy in action. They were using the UFly curriculum, and so being able to see how the teachers are navigating and teaching their kids through that. And then I believe we also got to see during like an ELD breakout and seeing, I think it was kinder and first or first and second split, kind of going through their ELD block, which was fun. And then in sixth grade, I mean, the students are so bright and so passionate about the projects that they're working on. They were working on creating, I can't remember exactly, it was like they're creating an island, and they had to put together everything from a brochure to invite people to the island, and the explaining the different kind of habitats on that island, and they put together just these amazing projects. They're using 3D printers, they're like graphing things, and it was remarkable to see these sixth graders being able to explain with so much passion the projects that they're working on. So that was a lot of fun. And then as a parent, I was able to attend one of the kinder fairs that happened last week. And oh my goodness, it was so cute. There were so many young families, so many young kids running around. My kids definitely got a sugar high as they're collecting all the treats, going around to all the different tables. But we were able to go sit in on a school bus, play at the playground, and then have like a school lunch. And so my girls had a blast. But it was, we're getting ready to send Shekinah to kindergarten, and I can't believe it's happening so soon. I know I've been on the board with board members who've had their children graduate from high school, and I feel like I was like, oh my goodness, I know I'm not anywhere near that, but I feel like getting ready to send my first to kindergarten feels like such a big milestone. And so it's been really exciting just to interact with our district as a parent now. It definitely gives, I think, a different lens. So yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheann. I just wanted to say by thanking the cabinet team for all the work that you do and the presentations that you gave tonight for us. And I wanted to say again, congratulations to, our student reps and all the incredible work you have already accomplished as high school students. And I know you will be going into this world and you're going to do amazing things, and we'll be watching you guys and seeing all these incredible things I know you both are capable of doing and will do.
Yes, Nancy, and congratulations. One more time. Awesome job.
Yes, and to go off that, congratulations, Beth. It's well deserved, and I know you have a fan in me, because I'm always saying Beth is great. She does things so efficiently, and just so much about this district. And if any questions, it's always like, Beth will most likely know the answer, or will know who to ask. So thank you. And with that, this meeting is recessed at 7:35, and the board will be moving into executive session. And my board colleagues will stay, and Rose and everybody else is free to enjoy their evening. Thank you.